let's talk about why SOC 2. That's why we're all here today. So first off, it's broadly accepted. If you are out there selling SaaS services or any sort of cloud-based data application to a third party, most of them are going to look at SOC 2 and consider that acceptable. There's strong support for certifications. There's tons of certifying bodies out there that can take you through an audit. There's lots of readiness tools and reports. We do a lot of this work ourselves that make it easier for organizations to understand what they need to do in order to comply. And so just that broad base of support and industry expertise and everything else has made it really easy for organizations to undertake a SOC 2 journey. It's very applicable to SaaS style business applications. One of the things about SOC 2 compared to some of the other standards, I'll counter example with ISO. ISO is really good for kind of internal security practices, right? And it's kind of traditionally, when you think about ISO 27001, 27002, designed with kind of classical networks and infrastructure and operations in mind, whereas SaaS is much more business operational, governance, risk management, those sorts of things, and tends to fit nicely into kind of SaaS style business applications. And so that's a really nice thing about about SOC 2 as a standard, is that it tends to map nicely for how SaaS and software providers tend to operate. And so it's a good reflective standard of the needs of those organizations. Another thing that I like about SOC 2 is there is a graduated approach. You can start with type 1, you then move to type 2. You can address various different trust services criteria depending on the applicability to your business. And it's also not overly prescriptive. It doesn't tend to tell you need to have these specific controls or technologies in place, unlike something like NIST 800-53, which is much more prescriptive in terms of controls. So it's much more asking you about approaches rather than saying you need to have this particular technology in place.